Welcome back. And as was mentioned earlier in the show, the focus of this conversation is on a new program that has been established by the National Committee for Families and Children called the CRC Ambassadors. And we're joined by the Information and Education Coordinator, Information Education Communication Officer, for the National Committee for Families and Children, Lindbergh Smith. We're joined by CRC Ambassador and a part of the executive body, Chartel Casimiro, you're the president, and Darwin Westby, who is the vice president and also CRC Ambassador. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So Lindbergh, let's start off by finding out why the National Committee for Families and Children decided to start this particular program.
Well, it has ever since NCFC came into existence, it's about championing children's rights. And the staff is very small. It's just 7 of us strong. And we thought that in spreading our wings, there has to be another way to do it and reach as much children as we could in rural areas, particularly in southern and northern Belize. And so we thought of putting a program together, and we thought of putting the CRC Ambassadors program together. We thought of giving it some kind of prestige and making it quite big. And so to add prestige to it, we thought ambassadors kind of send a very strong message. And so then we sat out and we put out an ad and we recruit a good cohort of talented young people.
What type of people were you looking for? What type of young people were you looking for?
Particularly when I started there, I had no specific individual in mind. I was just looking for people who had finished sixth form or perhaps going to school and wanted to do something extra. And so what I looked for in regards to skill though was that they have that communication skill, they could do some report writing, and they have the passion to work with children, because most of what they will be doing is to educate and sensitize children about their rights and the general public at large.
Now, so you put out a call for young people who wanted to be ambassadors for children's rights, so go out and spread the message. What was the response that you got?
It was overwhelming, rather. It was quite. At first, I was doubting as to whether it would be successful, but then the response came in one after one, day after day, and I thought, wow, this is good.
Yeah.
And I looked at all the resumes that came in along with their letters, and I shared it with my ED, Miss Margaret Nicholas, and we were quite impressed with the resumes, and so it was 20 of them at least 23 resumes that came in. And of the 23 resumes, we had an interview with at least 18 of those participants who wanted to become ambassadors. And then we had a training which 15 of those were were more persistent. And so they carried through with the training and eventually the induction ceremony. But
let's start. I was going to say, let's ask Chartel and Darwin about what prompted you guys to apply. You see this announcement, and why did you say, I want to be a part of that?
Well, actually, I saw it more than once. I saw it on Facebook and I saw it in the newspaper. And when I read through it, it spoke about they wanted someone dynamic, someone who's willing to take charge. And when I read it, I felt like, it's me, and I always believe that you have to be an activist, especially when it comes to kids. And when I saw that, I even reposted. I had it on my Facebook, encouraging others to want to apply, because to me, once you want to take part in something like that, you have to have the passion for it. Yeah. And I had to apply, and that's why I'm here.
Well, for me, I've always done service work in many different capacities, scouting, guides, youth group, and different things like that. And the ad basically embodies what I do as well, and it's just another way I can contribute back to the society and help those in need and spread such a positive message and champion such a good cause as well.
So let me ask, and I have one question in particular for Lindbergh, but I'll jump in here and ask, what did you know about the Convention on the Rights of a Child?
Well, to be honest, what I learned was in school, just the basic rights of a child. So why I wanted to be part of this was also to inform myself so that I could tackle the issues within my community. Because I believe as residents, as someone in my community, we need to educate ourselves, educate the parents, educate the children, in fact, the community at large, so that they can be aware, so that we could ensure that we instill this among our children so that they can know their rights and feel empowered by it.
Well, for me, basically, I have lived through most of what the convention stated by means of how I grew up. So even though I don't know it in black and white as to what it specifically stated, but when I come in contact with the information, which is more self-knowledge, I realize that this is something I lived through, and it's something that a message I can transfer over to everybody I come in contact with, be it young people, children, and adults as well. So it's personal experience as well for me. But in terms of how much I knew about it, just like Chartel, most of it is in school and basic discussions and things like that that you browse around.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Lindbergh, was that a part of it, that the CRC were somehow not a front burner issue for a lot of young people in particular?
I think so, because just from going out as well, in the community I realized that while children's rights may be something heard by a lot of people, what it really is still unknown to them. They don't understand what their rights are or how it is applicable to them, how to even the mere fact of participation, which is something quite pressing now. A lot of organizations, even non-governmental organizations particularly, so pushing participation. We were talking it, but not really educating or doing it. And so now the focus of this program, which is the CRC Ambassador, is to stress participation, which is one of the pillars of the under which the convention strive. Because there are 4 pillars particularly, which is participation, survival, developmental, and protection. While there are a lot of laws and other things that do for protection of children, while you have the hospitals there which are doing quite a lot of work in regards to the development of children, participation was something more lacking.
Yeah.
And so we thought that if we have CRC ambassadors out there on a regular basis pushing out the word, I think it will become a little bit more common place for people to understand, and not just understand, but value the importance of children's rights and adhere to it at some point.
And in your first response, you spoke about seeking ambassadors, particularly for the North and South. Are the disparities that great that you need more champions in those particular areas? And is it linked to culture in some cases?
Well, there is the culture barrier, of course, which poses a challenge, particularly for people going out there to educate our ambassadors. However, we realize that NCFC is stationed in Belize, and so a lot of sensitization is done in Belize City as opposed to out district. We do go out district from time to time, and that is based on calls, or if we do think we need to do representation here or there. Mm-hmm. So we believe that ambassadors are quite needed in those areas. And because those areas are also widespread, we need people to help us reach as much children as possible. And given that being a teacher down south as well, I realize that you don't have people who educate children about their rights, or even teachers. And so the ambassador program is something put together to kind of bridge that gap, where children could become more knowledgeable about their rights.
So it spreads the access to information about it.
Right.
Now, I think obviously in terms of your selection, you try to be able to have coverage throughout the country. Were you able to achieve that?
Yes, we were able. We have ambassadors countrywide.
Okay.
The only area we don't have is the Keys.
Okay.
But for the areas we wanted most, yes, we have at least 1 to 2.
Now, how do you train these young people, and I want you guys to tap into this too, to be able, one, to understand the Convention on the Rights of the Child. We always speaking about rights along with responsibilities. And also, especially when you meet people who are not willing to embrace this type of education. How do you train them to be able to go out there and spread this information?
What I have done, or what we have done at NCFC prior to having the training for the ambassadors, were to put together a good cohort of people who have been in the field for quite some time, for a number of years. And so we put together people who are at the forefront and have been championing children's rights ever since we know children's rights came into existence. And so those facilitators then were the ones who help us in educating our ambassadors. And we also dash in something we call facilitation skills, how to go about presenting on the on children's rights, and how to maybe use activities to bridge that gap. So even if you had a resistance at first, at the end of that presentation or that little workshop you might have or presentation, you tend to have a more softer heart towards children's rights. So,
and also to add on to that, when it comes to the resistance, when just mentioning to people in my community or people around, parents would normally like, what are you trying to tell me? Are you trying to tell me that the kids should not listen to me? But what we want them to keep in mind is that we're just here to assist them with the growth and the well-being of their kids. Allowing them to know their rights is something that even the parents should encourage at home. To me, you can start from home. When it comes to a lot of issues that are taking place in our community, a lot of young people are the ones doing these stuff. Imagine we start from the root and molding the kids, allowing them to know their rights. We can look into the future and say, no, we have a bright future. So based on that, I want the parents, the teachers to keep that in mind whenever we go out there and be activists and do activities with them. Keep that in mind. We're just here to assist, make life a little bit easier for you as well.
Yeah.
And it's also, we have different materials that were prepared, including our training manual and different resources we have available through NCFC and the other partner agencies that we'll be using in promoting this message. And it all comes down to us as ambassadors, how we interact with the people and we understand our scenario and our settings and how we carry the message across, because that will be key. How we talk to people, how we explain to them the rights and the responsibilities, how everything ties in. I have had numerous conversations with parents, young people, and different leaders already in regards to this. And it's all about just using the right information and bringing it across to understand their situation and to let them see the need for the CRC implications in their settings and whatever, so that they can adapt it and make a difference for the children, because the whole convention is in the best interest of the child. And evermore we're seeing the pressing need for children to have a better place in our society. And like what Chartel said, if the children are in a better position, then the nation is in a better position as well.
Now, go ahead, Lynn.
I just wanted to add to it too. Bearing in mind why I stressed on the North and the South was particularly so because you realize that in regards to child labor, it was extremely high in the South. It is now recent that statistics have shown, particularly so with the cane farmers, where we have child labor more present in the North. And so that has been a fight going on right now. And with regards to minimizing child labor, particularly in the sugarcane, and you were a part of this, visited that sugarcane farmers meeting, or the stakeholders meeting they had just a week ago. Part of the projects what they're trying to implement is also looking at minimizing, but not just so they're about to train young people to become ambassadors to also help with minimizing child labor in cane fields and so on.
Chartel, that's your community that you'll be working in.
And so I thought
so tell me how you're going to talk to cane farmers or children of cane farmers about why children have a right to education and play and not necessarily spend the time and protection. So they don't spend the time in the fields.
When you mentioned that, I was just going to go to the same point about education, because what they're doing most of the time, what I see is that they're allowing them to get into the cane fields right after primary school, when as parents we should encourage our kids to be more, to have ambition to lead what they would want to do in their future. It's not because I'm a cane farmer, you should be a cane farmer. First we need to communicate. It leads back to that, allowing them to express and participate and know who they are, and based on that they should enable their parents to know, this is what I want. As long as if the kid want to work, go to school. At this certain age, you can invest and maybe start your own business. This could be for you as well. But first, get your education. First, enjoy your childhood. And maybe in that way, allowing them to listen to their kid, that could be a way of maneuvering around the situation.
So what happens when the farmer tells you, well, I want to teach my child responsibility?
I believe you can teach your kid responsibility in several ways. For example, at home, allow them to do chores, clean their room. That is one way of teaching them responsibility. Go to school, ensure that you do your homework, ensure that you reach in time to school. So there are different ways that you can teach your kids responsibility. It doesn't have to be to go out in the work field at this specific age.
Also on that too, in terms of the cane farmers, is if the farmer wants to be responsible, we're not saying that you're not supposed to be responsible, but put it in a time frame which would work around the best interest of the child, getting his education. So if you say in the morning about a half an hour before school or so, he can learn something about the business, that's fine. After he comes from school, you could put another aspect of it in there, that's fine. So it would be a balance for the child. The child will still be getting his education and will still be learning about the trade, but he won't be as much in the field, which would be a deterrent from him not getting an education, which would be a more long-term
Sounds like you guys are ready to go out and spread the word.
Now, we're looking at these issues when it comes to the conventions on the rights of a child. And we've had some major pushback initially when it was first introduced. We don't have that kind of a robust conversation for most people. It's, you know, how do you get it into practice now? Because it's not a new thing, so people don't necessarily have that kind of a strong reaction to it. It has been around for a while, but still the implementation to make it you know, meaningful for young people and to have you know, parents understand the reasons behind it. Are those the challenges, and how do you get people to have a passionate discussion about it, but understand that implementation is where we are now? It's not just educating anymore.
Well, when I was speaking with Ms. Nicholas at NCFC, one of the concerns was that when the message first came out, the more promotion was rights, and then neglect was placed on the responsibilities and respect. And so we need to first cover those three aspects. Because speaking with some of my friends who are teachers and different things like that, everybody's like, oh, children have rights. But
they have more rights than them.
But when you explain to them that the rights comes with responsibility and respect and so forth like that, and you put it in a way in front of them that they can see the holistic view of it and the benefit and greater good it has for the child, then they get a clearer understanding of the direction that the Convention of the Rights of the Child is going. So it's all about the message. Everything is there in the convention. It's just about the delivery. That will be key in how you get it across.
Now, I think in terms of, there's certain aspects of the convention, some of the articles that are basically easy sales. You know, people can understand children need education. People understand to an extent that children need play and they need safety and all these other things in terms of protection and survival and development. But participation is tricky because participation means that children should have a voice and should be included. And it has been a struggle, as Lindbergh pointed out, to be able to see and hear from children. So what would you say would be your approach in whether talking to schools or to parents about why there is value and why it is important that children are able to express themselves in different forums?
Well, for me, basically when I went through most of the articles when it comes to child rights, when it comes to participation, it first boils down to knowing who they are, having that identity. And when we get into this classroom, we have a manual here, and this manual will have us well equipped. It have different activities that we can do. And so having the kids, for one, we have to show them that we want to include the kids. So our activities will have them engaged. We have to be creative. We need to be innovative and finding ways in which the child could learn their rights. And when a kid goes home and tell their mom and show their parents, you know what, this is what I have learned. And seeing the excitement, the happiness in that kid, knowing that, you know what, I have already accomplished one thing. Imagine you continue enforcing and teaching them and educating them more about their rights, what all that kid could be. You understand? And so from there, I think as a parent and experiential learning, we were taught that when you put them in a scenario based on what a kid has been through, kids it might not be their kid, but it might be a kid elsewhere. Learning from that, based on that, seeing that kids have been abused, exploited, situation like that, that should get you as a parent having love for a child. That should get you to want to say, you know what, I will encourage what you're doing. I will ensure that as a parent, I will educate myself, inform myself so that I can educate and inform my child for the best interest of my child.
In terms of the participation as well, it will all go back to letting them understand that when the child speaks, that's how you learn what the child is thinking. And when you allow them to tell you different things and give them that room to say certain things to you, that will help you even as a parent to combat some of the challenge you may have. Because I think one of the major issues that we just, as parents or in many households, is just barraging the child, as opposed to giving them room to express themselves, and that will help you in a sense to address so many issues that you thought you couldn't get through or break down so much barriers. And when it comes to schools and so forth like that, is to encourage our young people and our children as well, to exercise their voice, because this is something they will carry through their whole life, to stand up for certain causes, to stand up for certain things. And it's not just standing up, but also educating them at the same time on how to stand up. You have to be respectful of certain things, and you have a responsibility to certain things, but it's all in the manner in which you do it, because you can make your wrong turn right. So it's just the approach, like I keep on saying, understand, that we will bring to the table.
Children who are allowed to express themselves
because it's a right as well.
Adults who are willing to express themselves.
And will become better citizens and contribute productively to the growth of our nation as well. So everything here seems to be in the best interest of the child, which will also be in the best interest of the country.
I just want to add to that a little by saying most schools countrywide also have what we call student government. And that's one way of getting participation actively involved. Sometimes we have where these student governments are formed and they're dormant. We just have a president, we just have a vice president and a body, but no kind of activeness or productivity to it. And so it's about really, while we talk participation too, the art of getting active and appropriate participation is also creating an environment that will enable such to become, because we can tap participation, and if we don't create an environment where children can actively participate and we take their opinions into consideration, then we're going nowhere still. So it's about creating that environment, listening to them, and say, guess what? They might have a point. How we can incorporate now their ideas into the bigger picture, so they can also feel a part of it. And just before I went on, during December 2015, UNICEF started their CFM, their Child-Friendly Municipalities Training, which NCFC started. And so we were going countrywide doing human rights and children rights training, and getting these town council members from the town councils and the community at large to understand how children can be, how you can have children participate not just in school, not just in the home, but also towards the development of their own local communities. What can they do? And how can they contribute to the development of their local communities? And so that was what we were doing.
So how can people tap into utilizing the ambassadors? Is it where the ambassadors identify a particular need within their community, or can people then go in and say, okay, we need an ambassador to come and work? And is it, since you're talking about a training manual of sorts, is it an intervention where you go into a school and have a sustained relationship with that particular institution?
It can work in various aspects. You can develop a relationship with a school, because like I've told the ambassadors, if you started with a school, definitely you might want to start with just a class to make it more manageable. And eventually you start to adopt other classes, and then you spread the word. Try to create child rights ambassadors in your own right there too, so they could help you champion that cause. You can there are time to time when NCFC receive calls from various other organizations out district to do presentation. Based on the district we receive calls from, then we will now refer them to the CRC ambassadors, who will now do that presentation for us. And then of course it will be ongoing training for them, because they must remain current and up to date regards to the changes in information, new methodologies, new ideas, and things like that. So there will be continuous training from time to time just to make sure the information they're providing out there is current and is aligned with what NCFC wants. No?
And with this very huge role, you have quite a bit of responsibilities as well. Because once we have people going out and working with children, there are many concerns as to whether or not you will be teaching them things that are beneficial to them. Are you going to be working within their age capacity? All of these things. What is being done to ensure that your CRC ambassadors live up to the oath that they've taken?
Yeah, yeah. Normally, well, they have some certain responsibilities to carry out per month, and they also we will do spot checks to make sure what they're doing is right, is in accordance to NCFC rules and guidelines and the way we want them to represent us out there. So once that is being done, then if that is not being done, then we will have to pull them in and do a little bit of warning, talking with them to make sure they live up to that to that standard. But all in all, they have presentations they must do per month. So every month, these CRC ambassadors have at least 2 presentations per month. So, and they do their reporting back to NCFC, where they provide who they're reaching, the age group, and give us a little feedback about how the presentation perhaps gone. And that will give us an idea of how many children or the audience we're reaching, and what can we do as an organization to reach more people, or how we can better help them to improve themselves, to reach more, and build upon their skills already they have.
All right. Well, Lindbergh, Chartel, and Darwin, we want to thank you for joining us this morning to talk about the role of the ambassadors. And how can people reach you?
Well, they can reach me through NCFC office and via our phone numbers, which is 223-0059, or send me an email at lsmith@ncfc.org.bz.
Our Facebook page.
And you all have a
Facebook page, which is CRC Ambassadors, so the wider community and country can join us and follow up with all the activities, which we are soon to embark on a bright start. After induction and everything has been going fantastic, and from there you can join the community and see everything that we have been doing.
All right, excellent.
Also NCFC Facebook page, because those are quite linked, no?
Yeah.
So once you get me there, you get there.
All right, well, thank you all for joining us, and best of luck.
Thank you. And thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
We're going to go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, it's to talk about Belize in the time of Caribbean Federation, so stay tuned.